What if the very thing we've been taught to be ashamed of, needing support, is actually our greatest source of strength? In today's episode, we're diving into a topic that I believe women everywhere need to hear right now. The myth of doing it all alone and the deep power we unlock when we return to community, sisterhood, and shared rituals. We'll talk about the wisdom of nature, how women across cultures have always leaned on each other for survival and strength, and why the modern obsession with self-reliance is leaving us burned out, disconnected, and unwell. And more importantly, how we can begin to change that. And before we dive in, I just want to share something exciting. I'm in the early stages of creating an end-of-summer retreat for 2026 in the Catskill Mountains. It will be a gathering designed for women like us to rest, reconnect, and rise into our power together. If this speaks to you, I'd love to know if you're interested. Just send me an email, which will be in the show notes, with the subject line retreat, and I'll make sure that you're the first to know when the doors open. Now, let's explore why self-care is not solo and how building women's circles might be just the medicine we all need right now. Let's get into it. You're listening to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. I'm your host, Tina Stinson, and I had a stroke at the age of 39 from stress and burnout that shook my world. Now I'm laying it all out, the deep-level self-care practices and mindset shifts that I needed that kept me healthy, balanced, and thriving. Join me in this intimate space as we explore healing, resilience, and the soul's journey to alignment. This is where real conversations about deep-level self-care happen. Let's get into it. Hey guys, welcome back to the Soul Aligned Self-Care Podcast. I am so happy that you're here joining me and honored that you come here every week to hang out with me. And if you're new here, welcome. Today we're talking about why self-care is not solo, why we should not be thinking that we need to do everything alone. We need each other more than ever right now. And we need that heart-centered connection. We've been spending way too much time, and we've been doing it too long, holding the weight alone, believing that needing support means that we failed. And I want to share personally that back in the day before I had my stroke, when I was raising 3 kids by myself, and I really was kind of by myself. My former husband did not help me much as far as it came to like spending the time with the kids. Monetary wise, the support was always there. But when it came to actually raising the kids, that was like all me. I lived far away from family, about 2.5 hours. So there were visits where I took my kids to see my parents and my family. But the bulk of the time I was doing it all alone. And I always felt like a failure. I don't know if I've shared this with many people, but I never felt like I was doing anything right. I felt like I was half-assing everything, including other parts of my life too, relationships, work. And it never felt like I can completely like go into, one or the other. I was flying by the seat of my pants, hence the stroke, right? So something I wanted to share with you, like every week in my Patreon community, it's called Soul Aligned Life. And I do this card pull from a deck. And I have a whole bunch of different kinds of decks, self-care decks. But right now I'm working with one that is called the Feminine Wisdom deck. And it's really beautiful. The cards are just gorgeous. And this week's card was the grounding card. And it talks about being in the here and now, which is what you would expect, but it uses a tree as its symbol, with the branches kind of like reaching out and the roots spreading wide on the ground, which creates its strength, right? And it's no wonder this card is used as a symbol for grounding. But what if there was a whole lot more meaning to this? So I started to thinking about this, like trees are a part of an underground and above ground community, like this really large community that offers and receives support from one another. It's not just from other trees, it's from other living species. They support each other unconditionally, taking care of each other, making sure everyone's well fed and getting enough sunshine. And I love also how all different trees, like the oak tree, will take care of the cherry tree, and and so on and so forth. So, what if this symbolism of grounding goes a whole lot deeper, representing the support that we give and receive in community, like with other humans and also with nature? So, not only are we in community with humans, but all living things, and we are. After all, this is where we come from as humans. We used to be much more connected to the rhythms of nature. And I really, truly believe that we need to return to this. I truly believe a lot of the problems in the world are this disconnection, or at least part of what's kind of feeds the problems in the world. It's not just in community with each other as humans, but also the community that is ready and waiting for us in nature's rhythms. So I think that we have more support than we realize. And today I want to talk about one aspect of this: women supporting other women in community. I believe that we need this now more than ever. We're in dire need of support. I feel like we're being kind of like almost attacked from all different directions. And some of us have almost completely lost one of the most profound, powerful connections that we have available to us, and that is other women. So I want to talk about why community-based wellness matters, and it's backed by research. So I remember when I was a kid, at my house, it was the house for all the holidays and the get-togethers, almost always. We were all together, and I'm talking all of us. There were probably around 30, sometimes more people, and we had these big meals, like huge. I remember at Christmas time, my mom would cook, like there would be like a pasta meal first, like lasagna or baked ziti, and then there would be antipasta, and then there would be a fruit salad, and then there would be the turkey and the ham, and then all the fixins. I don't know how we ate so much food. I just don't even think I could do it now. But we you know we were all together, right? All the cousins played together. We were all connected. We were sharing stories. We were supporting each other. We had rituals, and most of all, it was a strong form of community. Okay, obviously, families don't always get along perfectly, but it was a very strong form of community. Now, I didn't realize how powerful this was and how lucky I was to grow up with this. We're all like spread out now, so it's very common in the world to have all parts of your family all over the place. So that is the same with my family. All my cousins are all over the place. Some of them I haven't seen in years. I don't know their kids. I probably could, like, if I bumped into one of their kids on the street, I wouldn't even know it, which is really sad. I believe it's very sad. But we barely ever get together. And I think this happened to a lot of families. And I believe that some of the kids growing up today have never experienced the kind of thing I experienced as a kid. So when I see them beating themselves up for having such a hard time just surviving in this world by themselves, trying to support themselves and do everything themselves, and then when I see the older generations calling them lazy and whiny and all those things, it makes me really angry, because the younger generations coming after us did not have a lot of these almost invisible support systems the majority of us had growing up. And when I say invisible, what I mean is that they were so normal to us that we didn't even know they were a privilege at the time. And the hope I see always comes from my kids, okay? I watch my kids. I'm always amazed by my kids and so proud of them. I see them creating this for themselves with their friends, okay? So they're creating their own families of choice, which I think is almost even better than regular families. And I think there's a lot of people out there that would agree with this. If you had a choice of what family people would be in your family, what would it be? So, but this doesn't just happen, like the way my family got together, we were all related, and that's just how it happened. That was the way it was. It just was, right? So we were a family. They were just there, and we were always got together, whether we liked each other or not. Now you have to be, I feel like a lot of people still have this. There's definitely a lot of people that have this. But if you don't, I feel like you have to be intentional in creating a community for yourself. It's not just going to fall into your lap. I wish that it would fall into everybody's laps, but I think it's something you have to be more intentional about, especially if you want to curate something that's really supportive for yourself. So some of the benefits are shared rituals and routines bring structure and peace to your life. So just having these regular rituals, like, having coffee together, just check-ins with each other, they help you curb anxiety, they help you reduce burnout, and they improve focus and well-being, okay? So as you could see, if you could see the younger generations not having this, maybe it makes sense why, the majority of them are on anti-anxiety meds. Not all of them, but a large portion of them, right? Another benefit, well-being flourishes collectively. So studies highlight that community-level initiatives rooted in empowerment, connection, and shared purpose have significant positive impacts on mental and physical health. So even being a part of something that comes to mind for me is my oldest daughter is very involved in the football club community down in Charlotte, North Carolina, like very involved. And it's such an incredible community. And I think that has a very positive effect on her life. She has a lot of fun, a lot of good friends, a lot of connection. Strong social infrastructure prevents decline better than individual treatment alone. That is just, let me just say that again. A strong social life prevents decline better than having any kind of treatment while being alone. So being social is healthy. As long as you're social with the people that are going to be healthy for you. Another thing that it does is rituals strengthen bonds and resilience. And I think we all know that rituals together promote emotional regulation and a sense of belonging that we all want. All of us want this as humans. And in groups, they kind of create that connection and that trust that's rooted in community, really. The ritual overrides any type of isolation. So being involved in community kind of overrides all of the negative repercussions of being isolated, obviously. Now, something I want to talk about that I've always been so into is the blue zones, okay? So I share in my latest blog post, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes so you could read it if you want, but lessons from Okinawa. Now, if you don't know what blue zones are, I will put a link to that also in the show notes. But blue zones basically are all these different places all over the world where people live well into their hundreds, but they're not just living, they're actually healthy and functional, okay? So they're not living with all this disease and stuff. They're very healthy. And so what I always loved about, and I got into blue zones when I first became a health coach, which was ages ago. And the reason I liked it was because it was all different people in all different places all over the world. So Okinawa, Japan, Costa Rica, Greece, Italy, California. I know I'm missing some, right? And there's more now. They've added more communities to this. So I was always fascinated by this because it wasn't just one thing that was making these people live well into their hundreds. It was I think there's a collection of 8 or 9 things. You'll have to go to the website to learn all of them. But one of them was community, right? And I thought it was one of the thing I like about this study that was done is that they're not all eating the same foods or doing the exact same thing. They have these very common 8 or 9 things in common, right? But, it just shows you that there's no one diet for everyone. There's no one way to do things for everyone that creates health. But looking at these different communities is fascinating to me. And so, as I said, community was one of those common denominators in all these different areas. They always had some kind of a sense of community. They definitely did it in different ways, but it was community. Okay. And in Okinawa, one of the famed blue zones known for like very extraordinary longevity in women, excuse me, and men, is that they don't go through life alone. From childhood, they're initiated into small, intentional friendship pods. And I say intentional because they're like placed in these pods, and it's called moai. And I hope I'm saying that correctly. If I'm not, you could write me a little email and tell me I'm not. I think it's moai. And typically it's made of 4 to 6 members who commit to supporting each other through their entire life. I think this is so cool. And they go far beyond like casual, just social circles. They share laughter, grief, and they gather on a regular basis to connect. They pool their resources for life's emergencies, like financial and all different types of emergencies. And they even offer emotional and, as I said, financial support across generations. So how cool is that? I think I don't know, it's absolutely fascinating. But research shows that strong social connections like those formed in this moai group buffer loneliness, support emotional well-being, and even contribute to physical longevity. So what's most striking about how deep-rooted support is woven into this everyday life over their cups of teas and shared walking together and just decades of consistent presence, this is just a perfect example of how belonging and mutual care can really kind of be so life-changing to us. And I feel like a lot of people don't have that here. But there's hope that you can create that. So this myth that I talked about at the beginning of doing it all alone, I want to just talk about why it's so dangerous. Okay. So as I talked about, and it nearly killed me, right? So as I talked about, after my divorce, I had to start over. So I actually hadn't worked outside of the house. I was a stay-at-home mom, which is a ton of work, believe me. But I hadn't worked outside of the house for 10 years. So not only did I have to learn a new trade, I had to start over. But then I also had 3 kids. One was just kind of going into her teen years, and the other 2 were younger, elementary ages. And I had little to no support. As I said, the father was kind of checked out, and my family was far away. Now, I had a few friends that really understood, but a lot of them were married and had no clue how hard this is. Most people still don't. They can go through their whole life not knowing this unless you've known someone close to you who've experienced it or you've experienced it yourself. I had to start completely over. So long story short, I had a stroke that was caused by stress. I had an artery in my neck tear. I literally like popped a vein from stress. So that's how dangerous it can be. Most people don't have such dramatic like effects. I always say that my body's very dramatic, but it shows up in different ways. It shows up as chronic fatigue. It shows up as cancer. It shows up as high blood pressure. It shows up in so many different ways. It shows up as anxiety, right? So many different ways. So modern culture, society often tells us that independence is like successful and asking for help means that you're a failure. And I want to tell you 3 reasons why this is completely and totally false. And I wish I knew this back then. I wouldn't have been so hard on myself. Humans are wired for connection. Isolation triggers stress and loneliness. Belonging soothes the nervous system and fosters healing. Plain and simple. 2, well-being is enriched by shared knowledge. Collective experiences offer emotional resonance, insight, and creative strategies that solo effort often misses. Sometimes just knowing that you're not alone, even if you don't have a solution to a problem, just knowing that you're not the only one experiencing that is enough to support you. And I would have loved this type of support. I had one person say something to me during that time period in my life, and it was my uncle. And he told me that I was a superwoman. And he completely acknowledged how hard it must be for me to raise the 3 kids. He completely somehow understood. And that was the only acknowledgement that I got from anybody during that time period, which is really, really sad. So this is a shout out to all the single moms out there and single dads that are going through it alone, that don't have a support system. I am here for you, and I hope this message gets to you and encourages you to build it and be intentional about building your own support system. Now, number 3, support does not weaken you, it strengthens you. True resilience is built through shared care, mutual nurturing, and reciprocal trust. We are meant to be working together. All right, just a heads up. I always record with my dog out, and somebody's coming down the driveway, so she might bark a little bit, but she hasn't yet, so hopefully she won't. But let's move on. Okay, so let's start talking about how we could start building like your own women's circle or your own community circle, okay? Now, I've been really, really lucky to have a women's circle gathering right down the road from my house. And I talk about this on a future podcast that will be coming out in September, so you'll be able to listen to that. And I call this lucky because where I live, it is very, very, very rural. And finding something like this is like finding a diamond in a shale pit. I mean, I feel like it was meant to be. So it's pretty new to me, but what I've experienced so far has been so wonderful and has definitely added to my life in so many positive ways. These women are examples from all walks of life, all ages, and they are strong, caring, kind, and beautiful in every way. The more I go, the more I realize that this is something that is needed in the world, and that women, the way women are experiencing life today, I think we just need more support. But even if we weren't experiencing any kind of turmoil, this is something, I think this is just the way it should be. And I wish I had this all throughout my life. I could have avoided a lot of very detrimental things to my health. I feel like the way I feel right now in this time period is that we're being attacked on all fronts right now as women. And we need to support and build each other out more than ever. It's important not just for us as women, but also for our kids and for all the generations to come. It's important for us to thrive right now and for the world to hear our voices, okay? And if you can't find something like this in your community, you're not as lucky as I am, you can always start your own. And here are some ways that you could do this, okay? So I'm going to give you 5 different ways, and you could begin today. So you could host a community wellness check-in. Invite a few women, neighbors to gather in a park or in your yard, or just for like an open conversation to check in with each other, ask each other how you are, what do you need, how can we support each other, okay? There's much more fun ways to do this, but this is just a very easy way to start. You can start a shared ritual. So you could do a coffee, just have coffee together in the morning, or you can go for a walk together. You could do journaling together. But how many people have had like a little coffee meeting with their bestie for a long time? I know back in the day, shout out to Janet, we used to always have coffee together. Even when we were young. I don't know how old we were when we started drinking coffee, but it was ridiculous. But anyway, we always had coffee together. And, I think that this is a very easy way to just share something and have that meeting with your bestie. And walking is it's like super powerful, because not only are you meeting with your bestie or, a neighbor or anybody that, you want to offer support to, but you're also, you're outdoors, you're in nature. So you have this triple whammy of positivity. So that's just a beautiful way to start a ritual. Now, number 3, create a shared wellness playlist or affirmation thread. So each day, one member contributes to a self-care tip or an affirmation, or you create a playlist together. This can be really fun, but it's just another way to connect. So it doesn't always have to be face-to-face. You can swap stories and healing remedies. So you can create a small group chat where you share what's helping, like recipes, remedies. It could be based on like a topic. So say if you're a woman going through menopause, you could have this little small group chat where you share anything that helps with the menopause, the recipes, remedies, and any resources that you have and what's worked for you. And this doesn't necessarily always have to be a group chat. This could be a meeting, like a monthly meeting, just getting together and talking about this. And then my favorite way to do it is, host like a simple creative gathering. Okay. It could be around something that you all have in common. Like maybe you're all runners, or you all are artists, or you all love cooking or gardening or whatever it might be. Get together in order to like share your experiences with that common, that one thing that you have in common. But this also turns into all the other things I just talked about, where you're checking in with each other, asking how everybody is, what do you need, how can you support each other. So that's all you need. All you need is one other person to get started too. You don't need 5 or 6 people to get started. If it's positive and beautiful, it'll definitely grow. Okay. So this is how I think as women, we can reclaim our power, not through like the solo hustle where we get burnt out, but through shared resilience, shared stories. Community helps ground us. It helps take care of us. It helps amplify our courage to step out. And together we rise stronger, wiser, and lighter, right? And if you don't have a supportive community, excuse me. See, whenever I get to the end of the podcast, I start losing my voice. I'm still losing my voice from whatever that was I had, that virus I had. So if you don't have a supportive community right now, I hope that this podcast inspires you to start something new, start anywhere you can, and even some online communities can be powerful. So don't write them off as not being powerful because they're not in person. Just start somewhere. I do believe, though, that having that in-person community support is the way to go. And no matter where I am in the world, I will very intentionally make sure that I create this for myself and others. So with that said, I just want to remind you about the women's retreat that I talked about at the beginning. So my email will be in the show notes so that you could check it out. Well, not check it out, but you could let me know by sending me an email if you're interested, and I will put you on the list so that when I start sending out all the details, you will be the first to know. Okay, guys, I love you. See you next week. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new one. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, I'd love it if you could leave a review. It helps get the show in front of more people who might need this type of support. And if you're ready to take your everyday self-care even deeper, come join us inside the Soul Aligned Life Patreon. Every week, you'll get new self-care practices and tools to help reduce stress and overwhelm. Plus, we do a monthly reset to keep you aligned and supported always. You'll find the link in the show notes, and I'd love to see you there. Until next time, be sure to take good care of yourself. Love you. Bye.